You've seen it happen, right? A company comes up with this brilliant plan, a total game changer, and then nothing. It just fizzles out. Well, it's a super common story. A great strategy rarely fails because the idea itself was bad. It fails because it never actually gets put into action. Today, we're going to figure out exactly how to build that bridge from the whiteboard to the real world.
So, let's really lean into this analogy, because it's perfect. Your strategy, that's the architect's blueprint. It's clean, it's precise, it looks perfect on paper. But implementation, well, that's the construction site. It's messy, it's noisy, things can go wrong, but it is absolutely where the plan becomes reality. So, let's grab our hard hats and get to work.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the big picture playbook. Then we'll meet the key players at every level, and then we'll dive right into the art of actually getting it done. After that, we'll see it in action, and finally, figure out how you even know if you're succeeding. Okay, so to really get a handle on implementation, we first need to see where it fits into the whole puzzle. And that puzzle is called the strategic management process. It's basically the complete playbook for any organization trying to get from A to B. Think of it like a 5-stage journey. You start with analysis, looking around to see what's going on. Then you formulate the plan. That's creating our blueprint. And then you hit step 3, implementation. This is the moment the plan meets reality. We'll get to monitoring and control later, but for now, we are laser-focused on that critical third step. And as you can see right here from our source material, these are the notes from week 8. Strategic implementation is smack in the middle of this whole thing. It's not just another step, it's the pivot point. It's where all those great ideas have to become real, tangible actions. And that is the challenge we're digging into today. But hold on. Before we can build anything, we need to know who's in charge of what part of the plan. See, strategy isn't just one big idea. It actually operates on 3 totally distinct levels inside a company. So, way up at the top, you have corporate strategy. This is the 30,000-foot view. The C-suite is making these calls, and they're answering the biggest question of all: what business are we actually in? Think of a company like Disney deciding, hey, let's get into the streaming business with Disney+. That's a huge corporate-level move. Then you drop down a level to business strategy. This is where a single part of the company figures out how it's going to win in its specific market. So for our example, how is that brand new Disney Plus division going to compete with Netflix? What kind of shows should they make? The person in charge of that division is making those calls. And finally, we get to the ground floor, functional strategy. This is all about the how. How does the marketing team for Disney Plus actually create the ad campaign for a show like The Mandalorian? How does the tech team make sure the servers don't crash when everyone logs on at once? This is where the rubber meets the road, day in and day out. And this slide just lays it all out so perfectly. You've got top management setting the corporate vision. Let's do streaming. Then middle management builds the business plan. Here's how we'll beat Netflix. And then the functional teams on the ground actually execute. Let's get this show launched. See how it all connects? If you break any one of those links, the whole thing just falls apart. All right, now for the main event. Let's get to the heart of it. How does the build actually happen? This is where we move from planning to doing, and believe me, it requires a completely different set of tools. Our source material points to these 4 critical factors for success. See, it's not enough to just have a good plan. You need the right ecosystem for it to grow. You need strong leadership pushing it forward, a company culture that actually wants the change, a structure that allows it to happen, and of course, the right people, the manpower to do the work. Let's talk about structure for a second, because how you organize your company has a huge impact on what you can actually get done. A small business might have a simple structure. The owner just calls all the shots. As they grow, maybe they'll move to a functional structure, with a marketing department, a sales department, and so on. Big corporations often use a divisional structure, with different divisions for each product. But today's world demands flexibility, which is where this cool network structure comes in. Look at this. You have a small central hub that coordinates with a bunch of external partners. The designers, the suppliers, the manufacturers, they're all outsourced. A great example is KFC. They focus on the brand and the secret recipe, but they outsource the actual restaurant operations to franchisees. It's a really powerful and agile way to get things done. So, how do all these factors change based on the strategy you're trying to pull off? Let's look at 2 classic opposing strategies, trying to be the cheapest versus trying to be the best. Okay, the key takeaway here is one word: alignment. Your implementation has to match your strategy perfectly. If you're going for cost leadership, like a budget airline, you absolutely need strict cost controls, more rules, and top-down centralized decisions. But if your strategy is differentiation, like a five-star hotel, you need the exact opposite. You need freedom for employees, fewer rules, and decentralized decisions to foster creativity. One size does not fit all.
So, you've put the plan into motion. The construction site is buzzing, but you can't just walk away and hope it all works out. This is where so many strategies die a quiet death, the lack of follow-through. And that brings us to the final, crucial pieces of the puzzle, monitoring and control.
And this is so important. It's not a straight line, it's a loop. As you implement your plan, you have to monitor your progress. Are you hitting your targets? You compare the real-world results to what you planned, and that information, that feedback, flows right back into the planning stage. This allows you to control the process, make adjustments, and get better. It turns a static plan into a living, breathing thing.
When you boil it all down, this is what it comes to. You can have the most beautiful, elegant blueprint in the entire world, but if the construction crew can't actually build the building, it's just a fancy piece of paper. The real value is never in the plan, it's in the execution.
So, I want to leave you with this question to chew on. We know that leadership, culture, and structure are all absolutely essential for implementation. But think about it. When you really need to make a big change, which of those is the hardest nut to crack? Is it changing the leader at the top, redrawing the org chart, or changing the deeply ingrained habits and culture of the entire organization? Answering that, well, that's the real challenge of making strategy happen.